Welcome to another episode of 5 and 6. I'm your host, Dr. Bay, where we speak with those who interpret and utilize ancient and current technologies in their work for the benefit of humanity. At times, we'll bring in the topics that provide a cross dimensional relationship to our main themes. Again, I'm Dr. Bay. I'm a medical mathematician, health practitioner, ethnobotanist, and much more. My role here is to bring the most fascinating and remarkable humans in their field to share content that will help you navigate our changing world. Wonderful. So today's guest is Mr. Brannen Temple. He's a two-time Grammy Award-winning American drummer, jazz music historian, and friend. Born in Austin, Texas, he started playing drums at the age of 10, soon to play uh, in school jazz bands at that time. Uh, a musicologist, connoisseur of the space in between that makes music happen. He operates in that wave between black genius and innovation. I've known Brannen for many years. His grace and heart preserves a deeply rooted culture of this land. Brannen, brother, welcome to 5 and 6 today.
Oh man, thank you for having me, brother. Much love, man, and everything. It's great to see you.
Excellent, excellent. You
Yes.
too. Brandon, for those who may not know, um, tell us some of your early beginnings there in regards to Austin, Texas. How was it at that time, and where did music uh, show up in your life?
Austin was a very small town, almost a village, if you will.
Mhm.
Especially growing up on the east side when the east side was predominantly, African American, and there were still the remnants in the '70s where you had let's say some types of commerce that were black owned grocers and various businesses and different things like that. So I lived a pretty insulated life, here in Austin at that time. Like I said, during the '70s, and music, I would say, was mostly introduced firstly in the church. My grandfather, my mother's dad, was a pastor, and they had an incredibly out of tune piano and hard wooden floor. And I just remember my grandmother's shoes like stomping, just keeping the beat, stomping and clapping. And every now and again, Sister Blanche would play the piano, not very well, but so there were moments there. And my grandmother was someone who knew all the verses to all the hymns. So
Mhm.
where most people would sing the first one and end and move to, no, she knew all four. was gonna get to all four. So from there, of course, the church I grew up in, the first drum set I saw was at age 4, and it was actually a gentleman by the name of Victor Holmes, and he incidentally ended up being my brother-in-law. One of my sisters married him, and I ended up playing that drum set for my introductory years. And so it was
Mhm.
a orange sparkle, uh, kind of a Sears and Roebuck knockoff of like the Japanese versions of what would be the Pearl drum set.
Okay.
And those were the early days. But I remember, for some reason, that orange kit, like, it just resonated with me at age 4. So that was a good introduction. You know.
Is there a reason you think why some uh, work well, say, with wind instruments, or say the keys, or the
Mm.
drum? Is there something in
Mm.
human beings that makes them gravitate to that? And could you speak to that a little bit?
That's interesting. I'm not really sure about that. I mean, I do
Hmm.
know that for drums, I mean, you know, the drum is aside from the human voice or the human body, is the first. musical instrument. And so, and it has many purposes, communication, medicine, healing, vibrational, uses, and these, the thing you mentioned at the beginning about ancient technology, the drum is just that. The drum continues to be a technology that gets people moving. It gets people to think. It gets people to feel. As I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but even I understand its its properties to be able to communicate with someone directly, you know, in the room and sometimes beyond the room. And you could take that however, whatever room means to you. You can take that. That can be in this life. That can be through another life. That can just mean I was playing and I was thinking of my buddy in New York or my family and wherever, So the drum, for me, I think it was, it called me.
Hmm.
I would say that any instrument that anyone plays, anyone's calling is just that.
Yeah.
Whether they decide to go into the science or the medicines or like you say, math. Be mathematician.
Hmm.
Uh, my financial guy, he asked me he asked me a question the other day. He was like, how much you paying for this, that, and the other? I'm like, I had to look, how you get in the look in the corners, for the answers. And he said, wait, you don't know that? I said, man, look, just like you're passionate about numbers, I'm passionate about rhythm,
Hmm.
and that's what I fill my space with. I fill my space with melody, harmony, rhythm. Those are the things that obviously they called me, so I take care of them. I'm a shepherd of those things.
Hmm.
So I don't know that. I would have to assume that other instrumentalists may have their own reasons. When piano. Oftentimes, when you're learning to play instruments as a child, I feel like that is your voice.
Hmm.
That's a link to who you are in a sense, because personally I was pretty shy as a kid. So if anybody came to the house, I might say hi, but then I'm ducking back to the drums. So they get a picture. They get a picture of who I am,
Right.
what I'm doing. I learned this early at an early age that it I don't want to say gave me it gave me words. It gave me more to communicate with.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
was my voice
Wow, and I love that about the calling. Tell me what music moved you most as a youth,
as a
going
youth.
past when you were, on the drums now, and you're
Hmm.
growing up. What was that musical repertoire that you were imbibing in?
Well, anything that I could, actually play, like especially,
Hmm.
like you say, I'm already playing, not in the immediate learning stages, but maybe, gone through some school, or been playing in church, the types of things that I've always had visualization, I guess, on my side. So I always try to play things that would put me where I wanted to be.
Hmm.
You know, when I was when I was young, it was funny. I used to have this. I was a huge as a kid. I was a huge Jackson 5 fan. It's
Okay.
like many people, and Michael Jackson and his brothers. Just the family energy of. It just looked like it was such a joy. So, like in the 1979, 1980, I believe, uh, they put out a live record, Jackson's
Uh-huh.
live recording.
Jackson
It's
Five Live.
and yeah, it's just the Jacksons. It wasn't even Jackson. This was after they renamed themselves to Jacksons after
Hmm.
Jackson 5. And there's a drummer on that record that I used to visualize myself being that drummer. You know, and playing things that would speak to a crowd of that magnitude. So not only was I playing in church at the time and playing in school, and actually by that time I was, well, I guess I had just begun, you know, but over the years, as I listened to it, it made me see myself on big stages. It was just a
Mm,
projection.
love it. And
Mm,
we talk about those four dimensions that humans live in,
mm,
right? Four domains:
mm,
life, spirit, mind, and the physical body, of course.
yeah.
And so you're about what age at that time?
That age, I'm like 10.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
so moving through, through the into the preteens, teens, and I started performing and away from the comforts of the church, pretty early.
Okay.
So I'd say around, my mother wouldn't let me do too much, but I was ready at 14. I was playing shows and doing different things. Especially 15. By 16, it was over.
It was over. Do
Yeah.
you remember that first gig? That first one?
Well, the first one that I got money from,
Yeah.
there's a, uh, a mentor of mine who's still here, and yeah, she called me up. She called my mother, who, let's say my mother was my first agent, you know, so, so my mother handled me and my other sisters, and my siblings, and if they had any kind of engagements, everything came through her, right?
Yeah.
So. Uh, Dr. Curry, she called and said, we'd like to have Brannen play, and it was $10. That's the best $10. Man, that was the best $10 I ever made,
Yeah,
man. The
man.
first you look down in your hand and man, a whole 10 is yours that you made doing, something that I was passionate about
Some
already.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we like to open up always by with the origin story, just kind of
Hmm.
moving along. But now we're getting into more of the revelatory
Hmm.
experience. Uh, for you, is there a series of revelations that built into this epiphany, or is it this one revelation while playing the drum, maybe in front of an audience that you would like to share, that you remember, that created this nexus event, so to speak, in your life?
Mm, you know, man, there's so many.
Yeah.
There's no one moment. The one that comes to mind though.
Hmm.
When I talk with you, I often go with the first thing that comes to my head.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to sort of key in to yourself, your true self, right? So the first thing that comes to mind was sixth grade band. It's funny. They had this sign up sheet for a band to fill out, like, do you extracurricular, you want to play an instrument? And, it's like check the box, yes, right? And so, well, what are those instruments? So they had three lines. And you say, okay, so write down the instrument, and they had all these instruments listed for one, two, three. So the first thing I wrote was drums, right? The second thing I wrote was drums. Third thing I wrote was sax in parentheses, and then I wrote drums. This is
You're open to it, but it's still drums. It's really drums.
yeah. And so to answer your question, I mean that was an epiphany. That was a moment. I don't know how I knew it at age however you're 6, 10, maybe
Hmm.
you're 10 years old, 9, 10, and soon thereafter. I believe in, not middle school. I was in junior high school. This was before
Hmm.
middle school when they called it middle school. So in junior high, I remember, which is just the next year, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, you know. And, often once you start getting up into, eighth grade, ninth grade, going to high school, they're asking you, well, what do you want to do?
Hmm.
You know, I already knew it had called me, and so that was an early moment. Later moments just could be, oh, just affirmations, people reaffirming. I played this another thing that comes to mind. I played a show once. It was a local gig, and I really wanted to see Sade. You know, man, I was just in love with her music
Yeah.
and her, and so I guess around this time I'm maybe 16 or so, and I had a gig, so I couldn't make the show, and we're playing at this outdoor venue that was on 6th Street that doesn't well, it somewhat exists now where there's a roof amphitheater. Anyway, so I'm playing there,
Hmm.
but it was completely open, and I see Sade walking down 6th Street. I'm like, that's her. But we're still playing, so I can't get anybody's attention and nobody's looking. And so then, like, the next song, her background vocalist. So I'd seen him in music videos. So I knew what this guy looked like. He comes into the club. Like we catch his ear. So he comes up and he walks right up to the side of the stage and he's just like looking at me, hands in his pocket, got a nice suit on, you know, you know, and just jamming, just like, oh man, this guy's a killing. And so I come off stage and the bass player talks to him and I talk to him. For the next song, her background vocalist, who I had seen before in music videos, he walks in, clean cut brother, suit, and he's jamming to us. So I get off the stage, we take a break, and he asked me, he was like, "Man, you sound really good." And I was like, "Wow, thanks," And he said, "So," in this British accent, which I'll spare you, I'm not going to try, but he says, "So, are you on any tours?" And I was like, "I'm 16." And he looked at me and said, "So?" And so at that minute, I knew I was prepared.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, it is to have this professional that I had seen in music videos and performances on TV, tell me that I was good enough. You know, that's just a story that comes to mind. So there've been several stories like this in my life at an early age, and stories that even happen to this day that constantly affirm that I'm in the right place.
Right
Reaffirm.
place. Reaffirms. And
Hmm.
so that's what we're talking about. We talked about this calling, early on, this, revelatory, that synchronization, right time, right place.
Hmm.
And we're looking at now like this innovative side that I know you had. I see you on stage, that, biorhythmicity of, the sun, the moon, and how they all pulsate, right? But
Hmm.
they're giving us this sound that we humans need, we emulate. We gotta have it.
Well, I mean, let's take it, to a scientific point, because what's around? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so what's around the Earth is a tone. That's what ohm is, right? It's at you know, what is it? 435 megahertz. Um, we're all in tune to that, or we should be. You know, our makeup is at a relative pitch that should create harmony. You know, now societally, I mean, we know all the dissonance that humanity can create, and it leaves us sort of devoid of that biorhythmic nature. And I think that one of the things for me personally that keeps me keyed in is of course is love and music and any sort of you know creator or creational energy. And so those things are kind of one and the same. They are me, I am it. you know but when you think about this sound that covers all of the world, all of humanity. That's heavy. That has to be dealt with. That has to be understood. You know, if we don't know it, we should know it,
Mhm.
and that should be something that helps us to bridge the gap between all these walls that have been created.
Mhm.
You know, because it's nature. It's biorhythmic nature.
As we're coming up here on just on the last part of this innovative side is looking into, say, for instance, I had a patient who was here earlier today and was
Mm-hmm.
performing there at ACL this past weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and she was noticing how just you know how uh, Instagrammy, how in
Pop
her,
culture.
it, but now what it's become, right? In
Yeah.
the artist tent, it was not being without the content creator, influencer. And, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
But in the authenticity, which we always love as humans, that was it seemed to be missing somewhat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But uh, where do you see the beat go amongst, you know, post-COVID, you know, social engineering? Where do you
Mm.
see the beat go?
I think simply, um, the beat is truth all by itself, and so it's almost like creativity is is a waterfall, you
Mhm,
know. But what you have to do is get in line with that waterfall and just simply put your hand in it,
mhm, mhm,
bathe in it, be in it, be of it, and because it's always flowing. It's either you're in it or you're out of it, you know. And so, what can we do to remain connected to our nature, you know? So you ask about the beat again. That's a earth that happens all the time. It's happening as we're talking, as we're sleeping, as we're thinking, as we're stressing. you know, there's always nature that's right there, steady. And I just think that somehow it's worth it for us to really find our own way to connect with that. Whether that's through, like you say, meditation, study, community. Is very important, and have uh, other like-minded people around that can sort of help, you know, um, solidify the things, or again, reaffirm the things that are inside of you naturally. You know, again, being under that umbrella.
mhm,
You
mhm.
know, I hope, and in being innovative again, that's just technologically or musically or creatively. Again, that's just putting your hand into the spring of creativity, and putting your heart, your energy, and your spirit in that, and allowing that to overtake you, and learn from it, grow from it.
That's the best way.
Mm.
And give us your social media, your handles. How can those who wish to work with you, contact you, reach you, and give the people something that they can take home?
All right. So Instagram, IG is at B Temp Drum. So TEMPDRUM. Facebook, is Brannen Temple. It's my name, BRANNENTEMPLE. And both of those, even on Instagram, is Temple Underground Music, or at Temple Underground Music. And Facebook is Temple Underground as well. And that's my one of my bands, Temple Underground.
Which we will definitely have to have you back on because we want to get into that a little bit more. I think on
Mm.
another occasion about all the wonderful things you've been doing over so many years.
Mm.
so many bands, and we know and share so many dear people between us. Um, it's been a joy to talk to you, and thank you for being a guest on 5 and 6. And of course, we look forward to having you back. Any kind word for the folks before we sign off here?
Well, the main thing is just love each other, love yourselves. That's all I got.
uh, Again, thank you for being a part of this experience. And to you, the users, thank you for being a part of this as well. If you would like to learn more or participate in our courses, webinars, and projects, go to our social media handles and or bayacupuncture.com. And remember, please like, subscribe, and share these. Until next time.